My key goes into the deadbolt and stops. I try it again because grief has made every ordinary thing unreliable today. My fingers are still cold from the cemetery. There is mud drying along the heel of my black shoe. In my purse, beneath the funeral program, my mother's old brass key taps softly against a tin of peppermints. The door opens 3 inches and catches on the security chain. Evan looks at me through the gap. "Your key doesn't work anymore," he says. Behind him, Diane is standing in my kitchen, drinking from one of my mother's blue flowered mugs. I stare at my husband. "I buried my mother this morning." "I know." "You were supposed to be there." His eyes flick toward the driveway. "We need to talk somewhere else." "This is my house." Diane sets down the mug. "Claire, don't make a spectacle for the neighbors." Evan tightens his grip on the door. "You don't live here right now. If you come in, you're trespassing." Before I can answer, the locksmith loading tools into a white van at the curb sets down his drill case. "Sir," he calls, walking toward us with a clipboard in his hand, "that is not what you told me." Evan's face changes. It is a small change. A looseness around his mouth, the kind I have seen when a customer asks him why an invoice is higher than the estimate. The locksmith stops a few feet from me. He is broad-shouldered, with gray threaded through his beard, an Ortega lock key stitched over his shirt pocket. He looks at me, then at the funeral program sticking out of my purse. "Are you Claire Bell?" "Yes, I'm Luis Ortega." He lifts the clipboard, not quite offering it yet. Mr. Bell signed the work order. I kept the original because I had a concern about the authorization. Evan opens the door as far as the chain allows. "Luis, the job is done. You've been paid." "I'm aware." "This is a domestic dispute. Stay out of it." Luis glances down at the paper. "You represented yourself as the sole property owner." Diane comes closer. Her lipstick is the same muted pink she wears to church and medical appointments, occasions when she wants to look composed but suffering. "My son lives here. His driver's license proves that." "A driver's license proves an address," Luis says. "It doesn't prove sole ownership." I hold out my hand. It shakes once, hard enough that my mother's keys chime inside my purse. "Can I see that?" Evan says, "No." Luis says, "Yes." He turns the clipboard toward me but keeps hold of it. At the top is our address. Below it, in Evan's square handwriting, are the words, "Riquet front back garage entry." Under special instructions, he has written, "Wife moved out. Do not issue duplicate key without my authorization." The appointment time is printed in the corner, 9:30 a.m. At 9:30, the minister had been saying, "My mother's name." "Claire," Evan says, "you said you needed space." I said I needed one night alone after my mother died. You left. I stayed at her apartment because somebody had to choose what dress she'd be buried in. Diane folds her arms. "And you refused to tell us when you were coming back." I told Evan exactly when the funeral ended. "You have been volatile," she says. "There is a casserole dish in my hands. I have only just noticed I'm still carrying it." My mother's neighbor June pressed it on me outside the chapel and made me promise I would eat. The foil lid has sunk in the middle beneath the weight of my fingers. I set it on the porch before I drop it. "Take off the chain," I tell Evan. He rubs his thumb along the painted edge of the door. He built the narrow entry bench behind him 2 summers ago, measuring the wall 3 times because old houses rarely believe in right angles. I held the level while he attached it. My mother sat on an overturned bucket and told him the cubbies were too small for winter boots. He made them bigger. Now one of Diane's beige walking shoes is sticking out of the bottom cubby. "I can't do that while you're acting like this," he says. "Like what?" "You're confronting us." "At my front door." This is exactly why we needed a cooling-off period. Luis shifts his weight. "Mrs. Bell, I can send you a copy of the work order. I'll need an email address." "Don't give her anything," Evan says. Luis studies him for a moment. "You signed it." Diane steps into the narrow strip of view beside Evan. We paid for a service in our home. You have no right to hand private information to someone standing in the street. The locksmith's eyebrows rise. Her name is in the private information. A laugh escapes me. It sounds wrong, almost cheerful. Diane's eyes sharpen. Evan lowers his voice. Claire, go back to your mother's place. I'll come by tonight and we'll discuss what happens next. My mother's lease ends Friday. You have until Friday then. And after that? He looks over his shoulder at Diane. That is the answer, but I make him say it. What did you move into the sewing room? Diane's chin lifts. Only what I need for a few weeks. The funeral, the new lock, her shoes, and my entry bench. They line up so cleanly that for a second I cannot understand them. My mind keeps trying to separate the facts as if each one might be survivable on its own. You moved her in today. She had nowhere stable to go, Evan says. She has 11 days left on her lease. The landlord wants access for showings. So she shouldn't have to live out of boxes while strangers walk through. I look at Diane. You said the condo sale fell through. It came back together. When? Things change. Yesterday. She presses her lips together. Evan's impatience breaks through. This isn't an interrogation. No, apparently it's an eviction. You can't evict someone who chose to leave. Luis looks down at the work order again. Evan sees him do it. Would you please go? I'm waiting to see if the lock needs to be restored. You're not touching that lock. Then I'll document that you declined. The two men stare at each other. Evan is taller, younger, good with his hands, and accustomed to people trusting him when he speaks about hinges, wood grain, weight-bearing walls. Luis does not seem impressed by any of those things. Diane turns away first. Call the police. Evan looks at her. Call them, she repeats. If Claire believes she can force her way into an occupied residence, let an officer explain it. The suggestion is meant to frighten me. 6 months earlier, it would have. Maybe 6 hours earlier. I take out my phone. Evan says, What are you doing? Calling them. The non-emergency dispatcher asks whether anyone has threatened me. I look at my husband through the gap in the door. No, I say. My husband changed the locks while I was at my mother's funeral and is refusing to let me into a house I own. Diane makes a wounded sound. You don't need to phrase it like that. I give the dispatcher my address. While we wait, Evan closes the door. The chain slides out of view. Then the new deadbolt turns with a dense, expensive click. Luis brings the casserole down to the sidewalk for me and sets it on the low stone wall bordering the front garden. My mother planted the lavender there. She claimed it would repel mosquitoes. It never did. But every summer she pinched off bundles and tied them with kitchen string. I'm sorry, he says. I sit on the wall because my legs have begun trembling. Did he tell you where I was? Luis looks uncomfortable. Not at first. But he did tell you. When I asked why the job had to be done this morning, he said there was a funeral and the property would be empty. I stare at the new brass cylinder in the door. He used those words? Yes, ma'am. Did you know whose funeral? No. I assumed, he stops, that it was someone on his mother's side. I didn't think much about it until I saw you. I nod. The funeral program has my mother's photograph on the cover. She is standing in front of this house, of course. I took the picture after we finished painting the porch. Her hair is tied up in a red bandana, and there is a pale green smear on her cheek. Luis gives me his business card. The office can email the copy, but I'm keeping the signed original. Why? Because when I was packing up, I saw an old homeowner's insurance envelope on the desk through the open garage. Your name was listed first. Then he got very specific about never giving you a key. So you changed the locks anyway. His mouth tightens. I had his ID showing this address. He was inside the residence and he signed an authorization statement. We don't run title searches for a standard rekey. I'm not blaming you. You could. I'm saving my energy. That almost makes him smile. A patrol car arrives 23 minutes later. I know because I watch the numbers change on my phone while messages collect above them. June wants to know whether the casserole made it home safely. My supervisor, Marisol, tells me not to worry about work this week. 2 cousins have sent photographs from the reception. In one, I am standing beside the framed picture of my mother, staring at something outside the shot. There is nothing from Evan. Officer Mendez listens to me first, then knocks. Evan opens the door without the chain this time. Diane has apparently decided the police should see her looking fragile. She has put on a cream cardigan even though the house is warm. Evan speaks calmly. He always speaks calmly after he has had time to arrange the facts. My wife has been staying elsewhere, he says. We've been having serious marital issues. My mother is here because I didn't feel safe being alone when Claire returned. Mendez looks at me. Did you threaten either of them? No. Diane touches 2 fingers to her throat. Last week she screamed at me. You opened my bedroom closet, I say. I was looking for a tablecloth. In my bedroom closet? You hide household linens everywhere. They're on the hall shelf. You moved them there. Mendez raises one hand. I'm not going to mediate an argument about linens. It wasn't about linens, Diane says softly. It was the anger. I unlock my phone and pull up the county property record. Then I hand Mendez my driver's license. Both show my name and the address. Evan says, "We're married. It's our marital home." I'm not deciding ownership, Mendez says. I'm determining whether she resides here. She left. For 1 night, I say. 3. The first 2 were at the hospital with my mother. His expression flickers. He had forgotten those nights counted. Mendez asks, "Are her belongings inside?" Evan does not answer. Her clothes, medication, mail? Yes, but... Then you can't declare that she moved out and bar her access based on a lock you changed this morning. Diane's voice firms. What about our safety? You can seek a protective order if you have grounds. Right now, I haven't heard a threat. She's very controlled in front of strangers, Diane says. Luis makes a quiet noise that might be a cough. Mendez looks toward him. You performed the Reiki? Yes. And you still have the authorization? Luis lifts the clipboard. Evan's jaw flexes. This is humiliating. I look at him. For you. For the first time all afternoon, he looks directly at my dress, my muddy shoes, the small silver pin at my shoulder that belonged to my mother. Shame passes through his face so quickly I almost forgive him for feeling it. Then Diane says, Evan, and it is gone. He steps inside and removes the chain. The house smells like Diane's vanilla room spray. My overnight bag is sitting at the foot of the stairs, already packed. On top is a neat stack of mail with a rubber band around it. Evan reaches for my elbow as I pass. I move away. I was going to bring that to you, he says. How considerate. Claire, please. Not in front of everyone. The green glass key bowl is missing from the entry table. I find it on the kitchen counter beside Diane's purse. There is a fresh chip in its rim. Inside lies a bright new key with a purple rubber cap, the kind Diane uses so she can identify keys without her glasses. I pick up the bowl. Careful, Diane says. It's damaged. It was my mother's. I know. That's why I moved it out of the traffic area. You chipped it moving it? It may have already been like that. It wasn't. My mother gave it to me the day I closed on the house. For 11 years, every person who belonged here had dropped a key into that bowl. The sound was part of coming home. I take Diane's new key out and place it on the counter. You are not staying in my sewing room. Evan steps between us. Not today. Today is when you moved her in. Your mother died 4 days ago. You are not making permanent decisions in this state. Diane picks up her key. I photograph it in her hand. Then I photograph the bowl, the packed bag, the rubber-banded mail, and her suitcases visible through the sewing room doorway. Evan watches me. What are you doing? What Luis did. What does that mean? Keeping the work order. Upstairs, I lock myself in the bedroom. The old knob lock is still there because Evan once said replacing interior hardware was a waste of money. Below me, cabinets open and close. Diane begins making dinner. Evan speaks in short bursts I cannot make out. Luis's emailed copy arrives at 6:12. I enlarge the upper corner until I can read the scheduling details. The appointment was requested at 4:38 on Tuesday afternoon, 3 days before the funeral. I open my messages with Evan. At 3:56 that same afternoon, I had sent him the chapel address and burial time. At 3:57, he replied, "I'll be right beside you." The message sits on the screen with its little blue heart beneath it. I put that heart there Tuesday afternoon, standing in my mother's apartment between two open garment bags. "I'll be right beside you." Downstairs, a pan clatters against the stove. I take screenshots of the conversation and email them to myself, then to a second address I rarely use. The act feels melodramatic until I look at the locksmith's work order again. Evan once told me documentation was what people collected when they had already decided not to trust each other. At the time, we were arguing about a customer who wanted walnut cabinets after signing an estimate for maple. Someone knocks. "Claire?" Evan says. I turn the phone face down. He tries the knob. "Can you open the door?" "No." "I brought you dinner." "You packed me a bag." There's a pause. "Mom did that." "Did she schedule the locksmith too?" "No." "Did she write your name on the work order?" "I'm trying to talk to you. You told me you would be at the funeral." "I intended to be." "Until when?" "Open the door." "Until 9:29 this morning?" His breath touches the other side of the wood. "The locksmith gave us a window." "That's why you missed my mother's burial?" "I didn't miss it because of a locksmith." "Why did you miss it?" Diane calls from the foot of the stairs. "Because I had chest pain." Evan says her name under his breath. "What?" I ask. She climbs slowly, performing weakness even in the rhythm of her steps. "I had chest pain this morning. My blood pressure was extremely high. Evan couldn't leave me." "Did you go to the emergency room?" "I called my nurse's office." "What did they say?" "That I should monitor it." I open the bedroom door but keep my hand on the knob. Evan is holding a plate of chicken, rice, and canned green beans. Diane stands 3 steps below him with one hand on the banister. "So you were too sick to be alone," I say, "but well enough to move furniture." Diane looks at Evan. This is what she does. What do I do? Cross-examines people until their pain sounds foolish. "Your pain came with a locksmith." Evan thrusts the plate toward me. "Would you eat something before this gets worse?" I take it because I am hungry enough to feel sick, because refusing food will become evidence of instability in Diane's version of the evening, because Evan added black pepper the way I like it, and some hateful, exhausted part of me recognizes that as care. He sees me notice. "The appointment was a precaution," he says, "after you walked out Sunday." "My mother died Sunday." "And you said you couldn't be around me." "I said I couldn't listen to another conversation about your mother moving in while mine was being taken to the funeral home." Diane closes her eyes. Evan's face hardens. "You always make it sound uglier than it was. Tell me the attractive version." "Mom needed help. You refused to discuss it." "I said she could store boxes in the garage. I said I would help pay for 2 weeks at the extended stay place near her condo. I said she could have dinner here whenever she wanted. I said she could not move in." "You decided." "It's my house." His laugh is quiet and sharp. "There it is." Diane turns to go downstairs as if she has heard something shameful. Evan sets his hand flat against the doorframe. "When it's the mortgage payment, it's our home. When the furnace goes, it's our home. When you need custom cabinets you couldn't afford from anyone else, it's our home. But the second I disagree with you, suddenly I'm a guest in Claire's house." "You changed the locks." "Because you keep using the deed to end every argument." "I have mentioned the deed twice in 9 years. Once when your mother wanted me to add her name to the utility bill, and once today after you barred the door. You don't have to say it. It's in everything." I look at the entry bench visible behind him, the one he measured and rebuilt because my mother teased him about the boot cubbies. He has left fingerprints in every room, some beautiful, some careless. I have loved both kinds. Then why did you write that I moved out? I ask. He looks past me into the bedroom. Why not write that you were a resident and wanted your lock changed? Why lie about being the sole owner? The form wasn't written for complicated situations. It had a box for tenant. I'm not your tenant. So you checked owner. I am your husband. That wasn't one of the boxes? Diane says from downstairs. She'll keep you there all night if you let her. Evan's shoulders drop. For 1 second, he looks tired rather than angry. I was going to come to the service. Mom got worked up. The locksmith arrived early. Then there was a problem with the back lock, and by the time I could leave, the burial had started. You could have come to the reception. I knew you'd make a scene. At my mother's funeral? I knew you'd know. The sentence lands more cleanly than anything else has. He knew I would come home and find out. He decided it would be easier if I found out after I had stood at a grave for an hour. I close the door. Claire. The plate trembles in my hand. A few grains of rice fall onto the carpet. Please, he says. I lock it again. I eat 3 bites sitting on the floor, then set the plate aside and take June's casserole from where Luis left it downstairs. Officer Mendez is still in the driveway when I retrieve it, so Evan does not try to stop me. The casserole is baked ziti. My mother hated baked ziti because she said every pan contained one noodle capable of removing the roof of your mouth. June brought it anyway because June brings baked ziti to all human emergencies. I eat it cold with the plastic fork from the funeral reception. At midnight, Diane's television is playing in the sewing room. I can hear the canned laughter through the wall. My mother's television used to make the same faint electrical whine, and for several confused seconds I expect her to call my name. Instead, a toilet flushes. Evan walks past the bedroom. He stops outside but does not knock. In the morning, Diane is at the kitchen table wearing her cardigan over one of Evan's old t-shirts. The green glass bowl is beside my place setting. Someone has wiped it clean. The chipped edge faces the wall. Evan stands at the counter making coffee. We should establish some ground rules, he says. I turn the chip toward me. Diane stirs powdered creamer into her mug. That's what we attempted yesterday. No, I say. Yesterday you established residency during a funeral. For heaven's sake, I slept here once. Then you won't mind leaving. Evan pushes a mug toward me. No one is leaving this morning. I pick it up automatically. He has already added milk. He watches me take the first sip, and I hate how much history can fit inside one ordinary motion. I'm going to the garage, I say. For what? My mother's boxes. They're fine. The detached garage is behind the house, past a narrow concrete path bordered by lavender. Evan's company truck is gone, but the smaller work van is parked beside the bay door. Bell-built cabinetry curves across it in dark green letters. I designed the logo at our kitchen table while my mother argued that the B should be bigger. Inside, the air smells like sawdust and machine oil. Evan's table saw dominates the center bay. Sheets of plywood stand in racks along the back wall. Cabinet doors for the Pearson job are drying on padded supports near the heater. My mother's boxes are stacked beneath the utility sink. The copper joint under the faucet has leaked every winter since we bought the place. Evan keeps saying he will replace it when he has the wall open for something else. A dark, wet circle spreads across the top carton. I pull it down. Water has soaked through a box of sewing patterns and into the album below it. My parents' wedding picture clings to its plastic sleeve. When I lift the corner, the photograph begins to separate. Stop. Evan comes through the side door. You'll tear it. I freeze. He crouches beside me, takes the album, and lays it flat on his finishing table. He moves quickly, gently, peeling away damp paper and setting photographs on clean shop towels. For 10 minutes, we work without speaking. He knows which cloths are lint-free. I notice slide wax paper between the wet pages. Diane appears in the doorway and says, "Oh no," as though weather did this. Evan looks at her. Why did you put the boxes under the sink? You told me the left wall. I meant the shelving on the left wall. There wasn't room. There was, if you moved the clamps. I didn't want to touch your equipment, but you touched her mother's things. Diane's mouth opens, then closes. It is the first time he has spoken to her that way since I came home. Hope moves in me before I can stop it. He turns to me. I'm sorry. The apology is quiet and specific. Somehow that makes it worse. You packed my bag, I say to Diane. She crosses her arms. Evan said you needed clothes. I have clothes upstairs. He didn't know whether you would be allowed in. Evan keeps his eyes on the photographs. The hope disappears. I carry each surviving box into the house myself. Evan tries to take one, and I tell him no. Diane moves aside with exaggerated care. By 10, the sewing room is empty of my mother's belongings and full of Diane's suitcases, shoe boxes, 2 lamps, a folding tray table, and a framed photograph of Evan at his trade school graduation. She has put the photograph where my mother kept her thread rack. I photograph the room, then I sit at the dining table with my laptop and open every account I usually avoid looking at unless a bill is due. Diane's phone is an authorized line on my wireless plan. Her car payment drafts from a card in my name, a favor that began when she changed banks and continued for 14 months. Evan's business insurance is packaged through the same broker as my homeowner's policy. His company's software renews on my card. Ridgeway Lumber sends statements to my email because Evan loses paper invoices in the truck. There is no single dramatic chain tying them to me. There are dozens of threads, each thin enough to seem petty if I cut it. I call Marisol first. She answers on the second ring. If this is about work, I'm hanging up. It's not exactly about work. Her voice changes. Are you safe? I look toward the kitchen. Diane is whispering to Evan beside the refrigerator. Yes. That took too long. I'm physically safe. What happened? I tell her the shortest version. She does not interrupt until I reach the work order. Do you have a copy? Yes. Good. Save it somewhere he can't reach. I did. Do you need a hotel? It's my house. I know that. I asked whether you need a hotel. I look at the green bowl. No. Marisol gives me the number for the employee assistance line and makes me promise to call. The lawyer they connect me with, Melissa Grant, has the brisk voice of someone eating lunch at her desk. Do not change the locks again, she tells me after I explain. Do not remove his belongings. Do not touch business funds unless they are clearly yours. Photograph, preserve, separate your income, and stop creating new financial entanglements. What about his mother? How long has she been there? 1 night. Give written notice that she does not have permission to reside there. Don't drag her suitcase to the curb. I wasn't planning to. You'd be surprised what perfectly sensible people plan after 3 bad nights. I open an individual checking account. I redirect my paycheck. I remove Diane's car payment and phone charges from my personal card, effective at the end of the billing period, then send her the dates and account information she will need to continue them herself. For Evan, I write more carefully. Effective immediately, I will no longer provide unpaid invoicing, scheduling, bookkeeping, purchasing, or customer communication for Bell-built cabinetry. Existing records are available for pickup. Use of the garage must end in 30 days. Insurance separation will be coordinated through the broker to avoid a lapse. I send it to his business address and personal email. His phone chimes in the kitchen. He reads for a long time. Diane reads over his shoulder. Then he walks into the dining room and places my coffee mug beside the laptop. You want to destroy my business, he says. I'm withdrawing my labor. You call it labor now? What did you call it? Being married. I meet his eyes. So is attending my mother's funeral. Diane says, Evan, don't argue. She's trying to provoke you. He keeps looking at me. Something cold settles behind his face, replacing the confusion. All right, he says. If we're separating everything, we'll separate everything. He takes the garage remote from the hook beside the back door and slips it into his pocket. Then he reaches for his truck keys in the green glass bowl. They strike the chipped rim with a bright, familiar sound. The back door slams hard enough to rattle the pane over the sink. Diane waits until the truck starts before she speaks. "You have no idea what you just did." I close the laptop. "I stopped paying your car payment." "This isn't about my car." "Then you might want to lead with something else." She pulls out the chair across from me. "That business is the only thing Evan has that's his." "It is his. That's why I returned it to him. You know he can't manage the office side. He can hire someone." "With what money?" "The money the business earns." Her mouth twists. "You always have an answer." "Usually because I've been asked the question before." "I'm not your customer service department, Claire." "No, customers are nicer when they need something." She gets up so quickly the chair legs scrape the floor. Her phone is in her hand. The screen faces me, camera open. I look at it, then at her. "Were you recording me?" "I was checking a message." "With the camera?" Her thumb moves across the screen. "You're paranoid." I reopen my laptop. "Please send me the recording. I'd like a copy." That ruins whatever she was hoping for. She walks away without replying. I print the notice, "Melissa helped me" word, and put it in an envelope with Diane's name on the front. Permission to remain in the house is revoked. No tenancy is acknowledged. She is expected to remove her belongings and arrange other accommodations. When I hand it to her, she holds it by one corner. "You printed this in your dining room." "Yes." "It's not from a court." "No." "Then it means nothing." "It means you can't say I invited you to live here." She leaves the envelope unopened on the counter. By lunchtime, it is gone. Evan comes back with Marcus Hale, his crew lead, and a stack of empty file crates. Marcus has worked with him for 5 years. He is quiet around me in a way he has never been quiet before. Normally, he raids the refrigerator and complains that I buy mustard with seeds in it. Today, he calls me Mrs. Bell. "Claire is fine," I say. He glances at Evan. "We're getting the company records." They're in the cabinet beside the desk. I made an index. Evan looks at the labeled folders. "Of course you did. There are customer contracts, vendor statements, payroll records, insurance forms, vehicle maintenance receipts, and a flash drive with the current accounting backup. I have included a page of passwords for accounts that belong solely to the company." Evan flips through it. "The Ridgeway login isn't here. It's connected to my personal email. I asked Lauren to transfer it. She said you need to call and verify." "What about the Pearson invoices?" "Blue folder." "The deposit schedule?" "Spreadsheet on the drive." "And the tax estimates?" "Yellow folder." Marcus picks up one of the crates. Looks pretty complete. Evan gives him a look. I hand Evan the company credit card. "This was in my desk." He takes it without touching my fingers. "Are you enjoying this?" "No." "You've been waiting for it." "If I'd been waiting, the folders wouldn't be current." His face tightens because he knows what that means. I expected to keep doing the work. I expected next month's bills, next quarter's estimates, another year of explaining to him why a deposit was not the same as profit. Marcus carries the first crate toward the garage. At the door, he stops beside the overnight bag Diane packed for me. "You moving out?" he asks. "No." Evan answers at the same time. "We're working that out." Marcus looks from the bag to the new lock, then keeps walking. That afternoon, I drive to my mother's apartment to meet the landlord. The rooms are already losing her. A strip of clean paint outlines the clock June took from the kitchen. The refrigerator contains half a lemon, mustard, and 6 individual containers of applesauce she kept buying because she forgot she had them. I stand with the refrigerator door open until the motor clicks off. In the bedroom closet, the empty garment bags from Tuesday are still spread across the bed. I find the red bandana from the funeral program photograph tucked into a shoebox with old receipts and spare buttons. It smells faintly of cedar. My phone rings while I'm holding it. Amanda Lewis says, "I hope this isn't a bad time." Amanda and her husband have had dinner at our house every New Year's Eve since Evan built their kitchen. She came to the funeral without him because he was traveling. It probably is. I say, but go ahead. She exhales. Evan called Rob. Of course he did. He said you had him removed from the house. I'm standing in my mother's apartment. He's at my house. He said you threatened to have the police drag Diane out. I gave her written notice. Amanda is silent. What else? I ask. He said you locked him out of his company accounts and canceled his insurance. I transferred the records and started separating the insurance. There's no lapse. I thought that sounded strange, but not impossible. Claire, I'm trying to understand. I sit on the edge of the bed. One of the garment bags sighs beneath me. Did he tell Rob when he changed the locks? He said after you left. I left Sunday night. He scheduled the locksmith Tuesday at 4:38, right after I sent him the funeral information. The locks were changed while we were at the cemetery. Amanda's breath catches. I hate how relieved that makes me. I hate needing someone else to hear the ugliness before I can trust its shape. I didn't know, she says. He did. Do you need me to do anything? Don't carry messages. All right. And don't make Rob choose a side at dinner. Just don't let Evan use your table to rewrite what happened. She says she won't. Before we hang up, she asks what she can take from the apartment. I give her my mother's yellow mixing bowl, the one Amanda always admired. My first instinct is to keep everything. My second is to give the right things somewhere to go. The apartment is empty by Friday. I bring the last 2 boxes home and stack them in my bedroom beside the green glass bowl. I moved it upstairs after Diane tried to record me. The chip catches light from the bedside lamp and throws a thin green line across the wall. Evan sleeps on the living room couch. Diane occupies the sewing room. We pass one another in the hallway like employees at a badly managed hotel. He hires a bookkeeping service. I know because a woman named Tracy emails me a polite list of questions about open invoices. I answer the factual ones, forward the records she needs, and copy Evan. Then I stop. The phone rings twice from customers accustomed to calling me. I give them the new office number. Lauren at Ridgeway asks if I am sure I want my email removed. I'm sure. You built half their system. I labeled half their system. You know what I mean? I do. She lowers her voice. Evan sounds rough. So do I. You sound organized. That's not the opposite of rough. The insurance broker says the company can remain covered through the end of the month, but needs a new operating address after that. I send the information to Evan. He replies with 2 words. Already handled. The address belongs to an industrial strip 10 minutes across town. When I drive past on my way back from the bank, his truck is outside a narrow unit with a roll-up door. A temporary Bell-built sign hangs above it. Marcus is unloading cabinet frames. Another employee sweeps the concrete floor. For days, I had pictured Evan's business hitting one of the gaps I used to close and finally understanding what I had done for him. Instead, he found a space. He hired Tracy. He kept moving. I park across the street longer than I should. The shop is smaller than my garage and probably expensive. It is also real. I call Melissa from the car. He rented a place, I say. Is that a problem? No. Then why do you sound disappointed? I don't. You called a lawyer from outside his new shop. A cabinet door appears in the opening carried by Marcus and Evan. They turn it sideways together to clear the frame. I think I wanted him to feel the loss, I say. He may. I wanted to see it. That's different. I watch Evan laugh at something Marcus says. He looks exhausted, but he is laughing. Melissa waits. If he can do all of this without me, I say, then maybe I wasn't helping. Maybe I was controlling everything because I liked being necessary. Both can be true. You can have been necessary and liked it. That's not very comforting. I'm not billing you for comfort. I almost smile. She tells me the petition is ready if I want to file. Filing will not decide who is good, who is cruel, or whose version mutual friends prefer. It will begin a process of separating the life we built. I need your answer, she says. I look at the new shop. Yes. When I get home, Evan is at the dining table with Diane and a stack of bank statements. He turns the top page face down as I enter. My phone vibrates with a fraud alert. The joint emergency account held $18,912 that morning. It now holds $500. I look at him. Where is it? He does not pretend to misunderstand. Protected. From what? You. Diane says, you moved your paycheck. My paycheck had not even deposited yet. You started canceling obligations, Evan says. I needed operating cash, a security deposit, first month's rent, insurance, utility hookups. You took $18,000. I took what I've contributed. From the emergency account. This is an emergency. The calmness of his voice frightens me more than shouting would. That money pays the property tax in October. We'll account for it. When? During the separation you started. I take a picture of the bank statement before you can move it. Diane leans toward me. Don't. I take another. Evan stands. Stop photographing my private documents. It's a joint account. Everything is joint when you want access. Everything is yours when you want control. I call Melissa from the hall. She tells me not to touch the remaining money and to download every statement immediately. She cannot make the transfer vanish. She can demand an accounting. That will take time. For the first time since the funeral, my planning does not steady me. I sit on the closed toilet lid and stare at the towels my mother hemmed because store-bought edges, according to her, were an insult to fabric. $18,000 is not ruin. It is also not money I can replace quickly after funeral expenses, apartment cleaning, legal fees, and property tax. Outside the bathroom, Evan says my name. I do not answer. I didn't take it to punish you. The door between us makes his voice sound tender. That's what makes it worse, I say. He rests his hand against the wood. I can see the shadow beneath the door. I had to protect myself. From the woman whose house you're still sleeping in. From being left with nothing. I open the door. He steps back. You weren't afraid of having nothing, I say. You were afraid I might stop giving it to you. His eyes fill, not dramatically, just enough to shine. You think that's different? For a moment, neither of us speaks. Then Diane calls from the dining room and he turns toward her. The petition is delivered to him at the new shop the following Monday. That night, equipment begins leaving the garage. Evan and Marcus carry out the table saw first, then clamps, compressors, sawhorses, lumber racks, and the portable heater. I stand inside the kitchen doorway and record the condition of the walls as they go. Evan records me recording him. Near midnight, Marcus comes in alone for the last crate. You don't have to ask permission, I tell him. It's company property. He sets down the crate. Evan wants me to sign an inventory sheet. That seems normal. He wants me to date it Sunday, the day your mother died. I lower my phone. He says that's when you terminated garage access. Says he needs proof the tools were trapped here before he rented the shop. He took the garage remote the next morning. He's been here every day. I know. Marcus reaches into his jacket pocket and places the remote on the counter. He told us Monday that he was going to change the locks, he says. Said once Diane was inside, you'd have to negotiate. Monday. Before I chose my mother's burial dress. Before Evan promised to stand beside me. Marcus looks toward the green bowl's empty place on the entry table. I thought he was blowing off steam, he says. Then he asked me to lie on paper. Outside, Evan calls his name. Marcus picks up the crate. I won't sign it, he says, and carries the last of the business out of my house. Evan comes through the back door before Marcus reaches the van. What did he say to you? I look past him. Marcus loads the crate, closes the rear doors, and gets into the passenger seat without turning around. You planned the lock change Monday. Evan's gaze drops to the garage remote on the counter. He misunderstood. He understood enough not to put a false date on your inventory. It's not a false date. That's when the separation started. The inventory didn't exist on Sunday. The equipment did, and it was never trapped here. He picks up the remote. You terminated the business arrangement. Wednesday morning. You were already talking about removing us Sunday. I was at the hospital Sunday. You came home and said my mother would never live here. I said that after you asked me again. You didn't ask why I was desperate. You issued a ruling. The van starts outside. Evan watches it back down the driveway, his jaw tight. What did you think changing the locks would do? I ask. Make you stop walking away from the conversation. You barred me from the conversation. I knew you'd come back. The simplicity of that answer hurts more than denial would have. You knew I'd come back because I lived here. Yes. Then you knew the work order was a lie. He grips the remote. I knew you wouldn't negotiate while you had all the leverage, so you chose my mother's funeral. It was the only time the house would be empty. Diane appears in the hall wearing her robe. Keep your voices down. I turn to her. Did you know he planned it Monday? Her eyes move to Evan. Mom, he says. She ties the robe tighter. We discussed options. What options? Ways to make you understand this is also his home. By removing me from it? Temporarily. You paid the locksmith. Evan says, that doesn't matter. It's on the receipt. Diane's attention sharpens. What receipt? The one stapled to the original work order. For the first time, she looks afraid. It is not fear of what she did. It is fear that what she did has remained somewhere she cannot edit. I put it on my card because Evan's company card was near the limit, she says. He reimbursed me. From where? That's none of your business. If it came from the joint account, it is. She looks at Evan again. He rubs both hands over his face. This is what I mean, Diane says. Every kindness becomes an audit. Changing my locks was a kindness to my son. The words settle between us. Evan turns toward her. Stop helping. I'm the only person who has helped you. You packed her things. You put the boxes under a leaking sink. Now you're standing here making this sound like your idea. It was your idea. His head comes up. Diane's face changes as she hears herself. You came to me because you were panicking about the condo, because my own son said I would have a room. I said I would talk to Claire. You talked. She said no. You were the one who said she would reconsider if she understood what it felt like to need permission. I can see him wanting to interrupt, but there is no clean place to do it. Diane looks at me. You have always had the final answer in this family. We wanted you to experience what that was like. While I buried my mother, her expression wavers. We didn't know the burial would run that long. Evan closes his eyes. I almost laugh. Instead, I take my phone from the counter and photograph the garage remote where he left it. I'm going back upstairs. Claire, he says. I stop in the doorway. I was angry, he says. I wanted you to come home and have to listen before you could walk in. I didn't intend for the police or the locksmith or any of this. You intended the part where my key didn't work. He has no answer. Melissa asks Marcus to write down what he remembers without adjectives or conclusions. He sends her 3 paragraphs. Evan said on Monday that he planned to change the house locks and move Diane into the sewing room while I was occupied with funeral arrangements. Marcus believed he was venting. Later, Evan asked Marcus to sign an inventory list dated Sunday and state that company equipment had been inaccessible since then. Marcus refused. Luis brings the original work order to Melissa's office in a clear plastic sleeve. Evan's signature is in blue ink. Diane's card receipt is stapled behind it. The scheduling record shows the online request arriving 41 minutes after I sent Evan the chapel address. Luis sits across from me in Melissa's conference room and taps the plastic with one finger. I should have stopped the job, he says. You asked for identification. I did. He showed it. He did. And then you kept this. His eyes remain on Evan's handwriting. Sometimes the part that feels wrong isn't against a procedure. It just stays wrong. Melissa makes a scan, returns the original, and asks whether he would be willing to confirm its authenticity if needed. "Yes," he says. "I hope it isn't needed." "So do I tell him. The separation moves through the house in labeled boxes and revised passwords. Evan takes his clothes from our bedroom while I am at work. He leaves the cedar hangers because my mother bought them. Diane stacks canned soup on one shelf of the pantry and writes Diane across the lids with a marker, as if I might steal cream of mushroom out of spite. The new shop consumes Evan. He leaves before 7 and comes home smelling like primer and fast food. Tracy discovers 2 overdue customer refunds and a sales tax payment I had scheduled but not yet submitted. Evan blames my abrupt departure in an email that includes me by accident. I reply only with the folder name and the date I transferred it. The tax payment gets made. The refunds go out. The company does not vanish because I stopped holding it up. It becomes smaller, more expensive, and entirely his. At the house, he begins listing every improvement he has made. Entry bench, kitchen cabinets, crown molding, built-in shelves, garage wiring. He assigns each one the price he would have charged a customer. "You didn't charge me," I say when he spreads the list across the dining table. "That doesn't make the work worthless. I never said it was. You're keeping all of it. You built it into my house. Our house." He looks around the room as though the walls might support him. "I thought this meant I belonged here," he says. "I thought being my husband meant you belonged here. Until you said no." I said no to Diane moving in. You said no to me deciding who could stay in my home. For once, yes. He gathers the pages. My attorney says I may have a claim for the increase in value. Melissa says the same thing, though with more qualifications. The house predates the marriage, but improvements, marital contributions, and appreciation can be argued over. Evan can also demand an accounting of household payments. I can demand an accounting of the emergency fund and the unpaid work I performed for Bell Built. Each demand will require records, estimates, hours, fees, and months of having strangers assign prices to our marriage. "What do you want?" Melissa asks. We are sitting in a small mediation room with a table too large for it. Through the wall, I can hear a copier and the occasional rise of Diane's voice from the room where Evan waits with his attorney. "My house. You are likely to keep the separate property. That's not the whole question. I want him out of it. What are you willing to give up? The $18,412 he took sits between us in the form of a spreadsheet. So do years of invoices sent after dinner, weekends spent reconciling deposits, insurance premiums, Diane's phone bills, the cabinet list, and 9 years of shared expenses. I could fight for every dollar because he counted on my exhaustion. I could also spend more than that, proving I deserved it. I'll waive reimbursement for the administrative work, I say. He keeps the business and every tool. He keeps the money he transferred. Melissa studies me. That is most of your liquid cushion. I know. In return, he releases any claim to the house and its appreciation. His business leaves the garage permanently. He and Diane remove everything and return every key by Friday. And the household property? He can take what he brought and the furniture we agree on. I want my mother's things, the bedroom set and the green bowl. Melissa looks down at her notes. The green bowl? It's not valuable. That wasn't my question. Yes, I say, the green bowl. The mediator carries the offer next door. Evan rejects it. He wants half the house's increase in value, continued garage access until his shop lease is secure, and repayment for the kitchen. He also wants the mediation summary to state that I left the marital residence voluntarily before the locks were changed. Melissa reads that sentence twice. He is still trying to make the work order disappear, she says. Then show it to his attorney. She places the copy, my funeral message, and Marcus's statement in a folder. Once I take these over, the tone changes. It doesn't guarantee a result. I know. It may make him more defensive. He wrote that I moved out because he needed it to be true. He still needs it. Melissa takes the folder next door. We wait 40 minutes. When the door opens, Evan comes in without his attorney. His face is gray with fatigue. Melissa starts to rise. "It's okay," I say. She stays seated. Evan puts the work order on the table. The copy is marked with yellow highlighter beneath "Wife moved out and do not issue duplicate key." "You kept this," he says. "The locksmith kept it." You know what I mean? I kept the truth? You kept the ugliest thing I've ever done ready to use against me. You signed it at my front door. He sits across from me. My lawyer says this makes it look premeditated. It was. I mean legally. I mean Tuesday at 4:38. He presses his palms against his eyes. "If I sign your offer, I lose everything I put into that house. You keep your company. I built that house with you. And then you used the locks to tell me it was yours." Diane's voice rises behind the wall, then stops abruptly. Evan looks toward it. "She'll have nowhere to go Friday." She has the extended stay place I offered before the funeral. The offer is still good for 2 weeks. After that, you and she can make arrangements together. "You'll pay for it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I wasn't saying she deserved to be homeless. I was saying she couldn't live with me." He looks at the highlighted line again. "Was it the work order?" he asks. "Is that what ended us?" "No. It showed me what the marriage protected when protecting me became inconvenient." His mouth folds inward. He nods once. When he returns to the other room, Diane begins arguing before the door closes. The mediator brings the agreement back 20 minutes later with Evan's initials beside each change. He signs. I sign. Diane does not. She has nothing to sign. On Friday, Evan loads the last of his clothes into the truck. He takes the living room couch, 2 lamps, his grandfather's tool chest, and the coffee grinder he always claimed I used wrong. He leaves the entry bench. Diane carries boxes from the sewing room to a rented SUV. When she sees the green bowl in my hands, she stops. "You kept that chip thing?" "Yes." "I said I would have it repaired." "You said it might already have been chipped." She adjusts the box against her hip. "Give it to me then. I'll pay to fix it properly." "No. It's damaged. It's mine." She looks as if she wants to say something about my mother, but Evan calls from the driveway. Diane walks out without finishing. Luis arrives after their vehicles are loaded. This time, he checks my deed and identification before he unloads a single tool. At the top of the work order, my name is printed beneath "Property Owner." The instructions say, "Rekey all exterior doors. Provide 2 keys to owner." Evan watches from beside his truck as Luis removes the deadbolt he installed the morning of the funeral. When the new locks turn smoothly, Luis places both keys in my palm. I carry them inside. The house smells like sawdust where the couch scraped the floor and vanilla where Diane's boxes stood. I put 1 new key in the green glass bowl beside my mother's old brass key, which opens nothing now. They touch with a small, clear sound. This time, it sounds like someone coming home.